I was standing in my kitchen, hands trembling as I held my phone staring at the image my 7-year-old daughter Annie had just sent me. Her small hands were raw bleeding in places, the skin around her fingernails torn and red. The text that came with it was simple, typed by someone else because her hands hurt too much. "Mommy, when are you coming? My hands hurt." Below that, a photo of a handwritten chore list in my niece Bella's bubbly handwriting, decorated with hearts and smiley faces, listing tasks that would break a grown adult. Scrub the entire downstairs floor on hands and knees. Clean all 3 bathrooms. Organise the playroom. Do the dishes. My daughter was 7 years old. While she was on her hands and knees scrubbing floors, until her skin tore open, my sister Mara, her daughters and my parents were at the movies eating ice cream. Their social media posts showing them laughing and having the time of their lives. That was the moment everything shattered. That was the moment I realised I had been so busy trying to be the good daughter, the helpful sister, the reliable one, that I had fed my own child to the same wolves that had devoured my childhood. But I am getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you what I did next, before I tell you how I finally stood up and watched their carefully constructed world of convenience crumble around them, I need you to understand something. If this story resonates with you, if you have ever felt used, dismissed, or taken for granted by the people who are supposed to love you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything, and I promise you this story is going somewhere you will not expect. Drop a comment and let me know if you have ever been in a situation like this. Now let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up as the youngest of 2 daughters in what everyone outside our home would have called a normal, loving family. My sister Mara was 5 years older than me, and from my earliest memories, there was always something different about how we were treated. It was not obvious at first. It was small things. When Mara wanted something, our parents moved heaven and earth to get it for her. When I wanted something, I was told to be grateful for what I had. When Mara made a mess, somehow it became my responsibility to clean it up. Our mother would say things like, "Karina, your sister is busy with her homework. Can you just take care of this?" Or, "Karina, do not bother your sister. She has had a long day." It did not matter if I also had homework or if I also had a long day. I was the helper. That was my role. By the time I was 10, I was doing most of the household chores. Mara would create disaster after disaster in the kitchen, the bathroom, her bedroom, and somehow I would find myself on my hands and knees cleaning up after her. Our parents never seemed to notice, or if they did, they explained it away. "You are just more naturally helpful, Karina," my mother would say, with a smile that made me feel like I should be grateful for the privilege of serving my family. "Your sister has so much on her plate." What Mara had on her plate, as far as I could tell, was a social life, extracurricular activities, and a lot of time spent on the phone with her friends while I scrubbed toilets. The pattern continued into my teenage years. I got a part-time job at 16, working at a local grocery store after school. Mara, who was in college by then, would call me regularly asking for money. $20 here, $50 there. "I will pay you back," she would promise, but she never did. When I hesitated, my mother would intervene. "Karina, family helps family. Your sister is struggling right now. You can spare a little, can you not?" So I would hand over my hard-earned money I had been saving for college, for a car, for any kind of future that might be mine alone. I told myself this was what love looked like. This was what being a good sister, a good daughter meant. When I was 23, I met James. He was kind, stable, and saw me for who I was, not for what I could do for him. We got married 2 years later, and I thought maybe, finally, I could build a life that was mine. We were careful with money. James worked in IT, and I had become a nurse. We lived modestly, saved diligently, and dreamed of buying a house and starting a family. Those dreams were constantly interrupted by my family. Mara had married Todd, a man who seemed charming on the surface, but who never managed to hold down a job for more than a year. They had 2 daughters, Bella and Kenzie, and from the moment Bella was born, I became the unofficial babysitter. It started with emergencies. Mara would call me at work frantic. "Karina, I have a meeting and the babysitter cancelled. Can you please pick up Bella from daycare?" I would scramble, use my lunch break, call in favours, whatever it took. Then it became regular. "Can you watch her Tuesday evening? We have a thing." The thing was usually dinner out or a movie or just time to themselves. I did not mind helping occasionally, but occasionally became weekly, then multiple times a week. I was working full-time as a nurse with 12-hour shifts, coming home exhausted, and then spending my days off watching my nieces while Mara and Todd went out. My parents not only enabled this, they encouraged it. When I tried to set boundaries, when I said I was too tired or that I had plans, my mother would sigh deeply, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Karina, I thought you were better than this. Your sister needs you. Are you really going to let her down?" My father would chime in with a guilt trip about family loyalty, about how we only have each other, about how I was being selfish. So I would cancel my plans, I would drag myself out of bed on my day off, I would show up. Then Annie was born, my beautiful, sensitive, brilliant daughter. From the moment I held her, I felt a fierce protectiveness I had never experienced before. I wanted to give her everything I never had. I wanted her to know she was valued for who she was, not what she could do for others. For the first year of her life, I actually managed to set some boundaries. I told Mara I could not babysit as much because I had an infant. Mara was not happy, but she found other solutions, at least temporarily. But as Annie got older, the demands started creeping back. And worse, Mara started asking for money again. Big amounts this time. "Can you loan us $5,000? Todd lost his job again, and we are behind on the mortgage." I talked to James about it. He was hesitant, but he loved me and wanted to support my family. We gave them the money. They never paid it back. A year later, it was $3,000 for car repairs. Then $2,000 for credit card debt. Each time my parents pressured me. They are family. You have the means. Do not be stingy. We gave and gave and gave. The college fund James and I had started for Annie stopped growing because every spare dollar went to Mara. The babysitting also ramped up again. Mara now expected me to take her girls every Wednesday like clockwork, plus any time she decided she needed a break. She stopped asking. She just informed me. "The girls will be at your place Wednesday at 3. If I protested, she would call our mother, and then I would get a phone call. "Karina, why are you making things difficult? You love those girls. What is a few hours?" A few hours turned into overnights, turned into weekends. I remember one particular incident when Annie was about 5. I had planned a special mother-daughter day for us. We were going to go to the Children's Museum, have lunch at her favourite place, just the two of us. The morning of Mara called. "Emergency, I need you to take Bella and Kenzie today, right now." I tried to explain that I had plans with Annie. Mara's voice turned cold. "Are you seriously telling me no? What kind of aunt are you? What kind of sister? Fine. I will tell Mum you refuse to help me in an emergency." She hung up. 10 minutes later, my mother called, her voice dripping with disappointment. "Karina, I am very upset with you right now. Your sister is in crisis and you care more about a museum trip Annie will not even remember this day. Do the right thing." So I did. I cancelled our plans, picked up my nieces and spent the day watching them, while Mara, as I later discovered from her Facebook posts, went to a spa with Todd. Annie cried when I told her we could not go. "But you promised Mummy," she said, her little face crumpling. I felt something crack inside me that day, but I plastered on a smile and told her we would go another time. We never did. There was always something else, someone else who needed me more. This pattern continued for 2 more years. I was constantly exhausted, constantly broke, constantly feeling like I was failing my own daughter while bending over backwards for everyone else. James started to resent my family. We fought about money, about my inability to say no, about the fact that we were sacrificing our future and Annie's future for people who did not even seem grateful. "They are using you," he would say, and I would defend them because that is what I had been trained to do. "They are family, this is temporary, they are going through a hard time." Then came the sleepover. Annie was 7. She adored her cousins despite everything. Bella was 12 and Kenzie was 9, and Annie looked up to them. When Mara suggested Annie come sleep over at their house for the first time, Annie was thrilled. I was hesitant. Something in my gut told me this was a bad idea, but I could not articulate why. Mara was annoyed by my hesitation. "What, you do not trust me with your kid? I have raised 2 daughters. She will be fine. Let her have fun with her cousins." My mother added her voice. "Stop being a helicopter parent. Annie needs to learn to be independent." So I agreed. I dropped Annie off Friday evening. She ran inside, clutching her little overnight bag and her stuffed bunny, so excited she barely said goodbye. I told myself she would have a wonderful time. I told myself I was being overprotective. James and I had a quiet evening at home, but I felt uneasy all night. I texted Mara to check in. "All good," she replied with a smiley emoji. I forced myself to relax. Saturday morning I texted again. "How is Annie doing?" No response. I waited an hour. Still nothing. I called, straight to voicemail. I felt my anxiety ratcheting up. I told myself I was overreacting. They were probably busy. Maybe they went to the park. I busied myself with errands, but by early afternoon I could not take it anymore. I called my mother. "Oh, I think they went to the movies and then for ice cream," she said casually. "Do not worry, the girls are having fun." Something about the way she said it felt off, but I tried to trust them. Then at 4 p.m, my phone dinged. A text from Annie's iPad, which I had sent with her so she could FaceTime if she got homesick. The message was typed in the careful, slow way Annie typed. "Mommy, when are you coming? My hands hurt." Attached was a photo. My heart stopped. Her small hands were in the photo, palms up. They were red raw, with skin peeled back around the fingernails and the heels of her hands. There were small tears in the skin, and I could see they had been bleeding. Another photo came through. A piece of paper with Bella's handwriting, decorated with hearts and stars, like it was some cute craft project. The list read, "Annie's jobs: scrub all downstairs floors on hands and knees, clean all 3 bathrooms including toilets, organise the playroom and put all toys in the right bins, do all the dishes from breakfast and lunch, take out the trash." Below it in Bella's handwriting it said, "You have to earn your place at sleepovers. Love you." I could not breathe. I called Annie immediately on FaceTime. She answered, and I could see she was sitting in the corner of Mara's laundry room, surrounded by buckets and cleaning supplies. Her face was tear-streaked. "Mummy, I have been working since you left," she said, her voice shaking. "Aunt Mara said I had to finish before I could eat dinner. Bella and Kenzie said I have to earn my keep. They said that is what you do when you're a guest." Behind her I could hear the distant sound of a television kids laughing. I asked where Aunt Mara was. "They went to the movies and for ice cream," Annie said. "They said I could not come because I had to work. They said you always work when you visit people, so I have to learn too." I felt a rage I had never experienced before, white hot and all-consuming. They had left my 7-year-old daughter alone in the house, making her do hours of hard labour scrubbing floors on her hands and knees until she was injured while they went out for fun. And they had justified it by saying it was normal that this was what I did, that she needed to learn her place. I told Annie to sit tight, that Mommy was coming right now, and that she had done nothing wrong. I grabbed my keys and drove to Mara's house faster than I should have, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. When I arrived, the house was empty except for Annie. I found her in the laundry room, exactly where she had been on the video call. Her hands were worse in person, and she had a bruise on her knee from kneeling on the hard floor. I scooped her up and carried her to the car. She clung to me, sobbing, saying over and over, "I am sorry, Mummy. I tried to do a good job. I tried to earn my place." I held her face in my hands and looked into her eyes. "You have nothing to apologise for," I told her. "You are a child. You do not have to earn anything. What they did was wrong. This is not your fault." I drove home in silence, my mind racing. Annie fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from hours of labour. When we got home, James took one look at her hands and his face went pale. "What happened?" he demanded. I told him everything. He was livid, but he was also done. "This ends now," he said. "You are done with them. All of them. They hurt our daughter." I nodded. I knew he was right. I had known for years, but I had been too conditioned, too trained to put their needs above mine, above my own child's. But this was different. They had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. After I cleaned and bandaged Annie's hands and put her to bed, I tried calling Mara. No answer. I called my mother. "Oh, hi, honey," she said cheerfully. "Did you pick up Annie? How was her sleepover?" Her tone was so casual, so unconcerned. "Did you know what was happening?" I asked, my voice cold. "What do you mean?" she asked. I told her. There was a pause. "Well, the girls thought it would be good for Annie to help out. She is getting old enough to contribute. I do not see what the big deal is." I felt something inside me die. "The big deal," I said slowly, "is that you left a 7-year-old alone to do hard manual labour until her hands bled. The big deal is that you all went out to have fun while she was in pain. The big deal is that you taught her she has to earn love." My mother sighed. "You are overreacting. It was a learning experience. You were always too sensitive, and now Annie is too. You need to toughen her up." I hung up without another word. I sat in the dark living room, and for the first time in my life, I saw everything clearly. I saw the decades of conditioning. I saw how they had trained me from childhood to accept crumbs and call it love, to work myself to the bone and call it duty. I saw how they had taken my money, my time, my energy, and given nothing back except guilt and obligation. And now they were doing the same thing to my daughter. They were teaching her that her worth was in what she could do for them, that she had to earn basic respect and care. I thought about the woman I had become, constantly exhausted, constantly anxious, never enough. I thought about the childhood I had lost. And I decided in that moment that it stopped here. Annie would not grow up like I did. I would not let them do to her what they had done to me. The next morning, Sunday, I made some calls. First, I logged into my bank account and froze the supplementary credit card I had given Mara for emergencies. She had been using it regularly for non-emergencies, racking up charges I was paying off. I then cancelled all automatic transfers I had set up to help with her mortgage and bills. Thousands of dollars a month gone. I felt a grim satisfaction watching the pending transactions disappear. Then I sent a text to Mara, simple and direct. "I will not be available for babysitting anymore. You need to make other arrangements." I did not explain. I did not apologise. I did not offer alternatives. I just stated a fact. Her response came quickly. K. That was it, just the letter K. She thought I was bluffing. She thought I would cave like I always did. Wednesday came. Normally I would have cleared my schedule to pick up Bella and Kenzie from school and watch them until Mara got off work at 9. This Wednesday, I had planned a mother-daughter date with Annie. We were going to the Children's Museum, the trip we had cancelled 2 years ago. I had taken the day off work. Annie was so excited she could barely sleep the night before. At 2:30 in the afternoon, my phone started ringing. Mara. I silenced it. It rang again. And again. Then my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mara again. I turned my phone to Do Not Disturb mode and Annie and I left for our day out. We had the most wonderful time. Annie's hands were still healing, bandaged with colourful wraps she had picked out herself, but she did not let that stop her. She climbed, explored, laughed until her face was red. We had lunch at a diner where she ordered a milkshake the size of her head. She told me about her favourite books, her friends at school, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. I realised with a pang that I had been so consumed with my family's drama, that I had been missing moments like this with my own daughter. I had been physically present, but emotionally drained, going through the motions of motherhood, while giving my best energy to people who saw me as a servant. When we got home that evening, my phone had 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. I made dinner for Annie, gave her a bath, read her stories, and tucked her into bed. Only then did I check the messages. They were a progression from confused to annoyed to frantic to furious. Mara's first messages were, "Where are you?" and "Why are you not picking up?" Then they escalated. "You cannot do this. I have work. Who is going to get my kids?" My mother chimed in with her own messages. "Karina, this is unacceptable. Your sister is in crisis. Call me immediately." Mara's messages got more desperate. "The school called me at work. I had to leave a meeting. Do you have any idea how unprofessional this makes me look?" Then came the guilt trips. "I cannot believe you would do this to your nieces. They were scared. Bella was crying. How could you—" Finally, anger. "You are a selfish bitch. I always knew you resented me. You have always been jealous. Do not expect any help from me ever again." I read through all of it with a strange sense of detachment. Then I called Mara. She answered immediately, her voice shrill. "What the hell is wrong with you? Where were you? Do you know what you did today? You endangered my children." In the background I could hear my mother's voice, equally agitated. I realised I was on speakerphone. "I told you I was not available for babysitting," I said calmly. "That was not an excuse," Mara shrieked. "That was information. Your lack of planning is not my emergency." There was a stunned silence. I had never spoken to her like this before. Never. "Karina." My mother's voice came through, trying to sound reasonable but dripping with manipulation. "Enough of this. This is not you. You are upset about the sleepover thing, I understand, but you are being ridiculous. It is time to stop this tantrum and remember your responsibilities to your family." Something in me snapped. All the years of swallowing my feelings of being the good one, the helpful one, the one who sacrificed, came pouring out. "A tantrum," I said, and my voice was shaking but clear. "You call this a tantrum. Let me tell you what happened at that sleepover. Annie, who is 7 years old, was forced to scrub floors on her hands and knees for hours. She cleaned bathrooms. She did manual labour until her hands were bleeding. While you all went to the movies and ate ice cream, you left a child alone in a house to work like a servant." Mara interrupted. "She is being dramatic. Her hands were a little red. We were teaching her responsibility." I cut her off. "No. You were teaching her what you have taught me my entire life. That her value is in what she can do for you. That she has to earn basic love and respect. That she should be grateful for crumbs." My mother tried to interject. "Karina, you are twisting things." But I was not done. "Do you know what Annie said to me? She said she tried to earn her place. She is 7. She should not have to earn her place anywhere. But you made her feel that way, because that is exactly how you made me feel, my entire childhood. Do you remember, Mum? Do you remember how I did all the housework while Mara did nothing? How I gave Mara my money? How I have spent years babysitting, paying bills, sacrificing my own family's financial security and my time with my daughter, all to support people who have never once said thank you, who have only demanded more." There was silence on the other end. Then my father's voice, cold and authoritative. "That is enough. You are being disrespectful." I laughed, and it was a bitter sound. "Disrespectful. You want to talk about respect? Where was the respect when you left my child alone and hurt? Where was the respect every time you dismissed me, guilted me, used me?" I took a deep breath. "Here is what is going to happen. No more babysitting, not once a week, not for emergencies, not ever. No more money, no more loans that never get paid back, no more last-minute demands on my time. And if any of you want a relationship with me or with Annie, it will be on terms of mutual respect. It will be healthy or it will not exist." My mother's voice turned icy. "You are going to regret this. Family is everything. You are throwing us away over nothing." I felt tears prick my eyes, but my voice stayed steady. "I am not throwing you away. You threw me away a long time ago when you decided I was only valuable for what I could provide. I am just finally accepting that reality." Mara's voice came back venomous. "Fine. You want to cut us off, go ahead. But do not come crying to us when you need something. We are done." I said quietly, "Yes, we are." And I hung up. I sat on the couch, my whole body shaking. James came and sat beside me, putting his arm around my shoulders. "You did the right thing," he said. I wanted to believe him, but years of conditioning do not disappear in one conversation. I felt guilty. I felt scared. I felt like maybe I had overreacted, maybe I should call back and apologise. But then I thought of Annie's hands. I thought of her tear-streaked face. I thought of all the years I had spent exhausted and resentful, and I knew I could not go back. Not this time. The next few days were hard. My phone would not stop ringing. My mother called repeatedly, leaving voicemails that alternated between guilt-tripping and threats. "You are breaking this family apart. Your father is very upset. If you do not come to your senses, there will be consequences." Mara sent walls of text messages, calling me every name in the book, accusing me of being jealous, selfish, cruel. She told me I was a terrible sister, a terrible daughter, that I had always been the problem. My father sent one message: "Your mother is heartbroken. I hope you are happy." I blocked none of them, but I did not respond. I let them scream into the void. At the same time, I started to notice changes. For the first time in years, I was not anxious every time my phone rang. I was not constantly bracing for the next demand. I had energy. I spent my Wednesday evenings with Annie, and we started a tradition of going to the library together, picking out books, getting hot chocolate. I took up painting again, something I had loved as a teenager, but had abandoned because I never had time. James and I went on dates. We laughed again. We made plans that did not revolve around my family's needs. Our bank account started to recover. Without the constant drain of supporting Mara, we were able to start rebuilding Annie's college fund. Small things, but they added up to a life that felt like mine again. About 3 weeks after I cut them off, my mother called from a number I did not recognise. I answered without thinking. "Karina," she said, her voice strained. "We need to talk. I think we can work this out. Your father and I would like to have you and Annie over for dinner. Just a family meal. We can talk things through like adults." I was immediately suspicious. "What about Mara?" I asked. There was a pause. "Well, your sister would like to be there too. She misses you. The girls miss Annie." I felt a familiar pull, the old programming kicking in. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe they had learned their lesson. Maybe family was worth fighting for. But then my mother added, "Of course your sister needs you to watch Bella and Kenzie that afternoon. She has an important appointment and her sitter cancelled. If you could take them from 3 to 8 and then we could all have dinner together at 8:30, that would work perfectly." The audacity of it took my breath away. They had not learned anything. This was not an olive branch. This was another demand disguised as reconciliation. They thought if they could get me back in the door even once, they could reel me back in. I said no. My mother sounded shocked. "No to what?" I clarified. "No to all of it. No to the babysitting. No to the dinner. I told you if you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on mutual respect. Asking me to provide free childcare as a condition of having dinner is not respect. That is the same pattern." My mother's voice turned cold. "I see. So you are choosing to abandon your family, over babysitting. I did not raise you to be this selfish." I felt the old guilt rising, but I pushed it down. "You raised me to be convenient," I said. "That is not the same thing as being loved. I am not abandoning anyone. I am protecting myself and my daughter. If that makes me selfish in your eyes, then I am okay with that." I hung up. 2 months after I cut contact, things came to a head in a way I did not expect. It was a Saturday afternoon. Annie and I had been at the park, and when we came home we found Bella and Kenzie sitting on our front porch. They had backpacks and sleeping bags. Bella, who was 12, looked tired and a little scared. Kenzie was crying. I knelt down in front of them. "Girls, what are you doing here?" Bella said. "Mom said this was an emergency. She said you had to watch us. She dropped us off an hour ago." I felt a cold fury settle over me. I took out my phone and called Mara. No answer. I called again. Nothing. I tried Todd. Straight to voicemail. I checked Mara's social media and there it was. Photos from an hour ago of her and Todd at a rooftop bar downtown, drinks in hand, big smiles. "Date night," the caption read. She had dumped her children on my porch without permission and gone out to party. I called my mother. She answered, sounding harassed. "What now?" I said. "Did you know Mara was leaving Bella and Kenzie at my house?" There was a pause. "Your sister needed a break. She works very hard. It is just for one night. You are family." I felt that old familiar anger, but this time it was different. It was not the hot rage I had felt when I saw Annie's hands. It was cold calculated. I said, "Did Mara tell you I agreed to this silence? Then she said it would be fine. She said you would come around." I said, "She was wrong. I am calling Child Protective Services." My mother gasped. "You would not dare." I said, "Watch me. Mara abandoned her children. That is what this is. She left them without securing childcare, without anyone's consent. This is neglect." My mother's voice turned to panic. "Karina, please, think about what you are doing. You will destroy this family." I said, "I am not destroying anything. Mara did this. And you enabled her. You have always enabled her. This is the consequence." I hung up and called CPS. I gave them all the information, showed them the social media posts, explained the situation. They were kind but firm. They sent someone out within the hour. A social worker arrived, talked to the girls gently, and explained that they would need to go with her until their parents could be reached. Bella started crying. "Are we in trouble?" she asked. I hugged her. "No, sweetheart, you are not in trouble. None of this is your fault. Your mum made some bad choices, and now she has to fix them." The social worker took the girls. I gave them snacks and bottles of water for the ride. I told them I loved them, which was true. I did love them. But I could not continue to be their safety net while their mother took advantage of me. I texted Mara, simple and direct. "Your daughters are with CPS. You can pick them up at their office. Do not ever drop them at my house again without permission." I turned my phone off after that. I did not want to hear the fallout. James and I made dinner, gave Annie a bath, read her stories. We had a quiet, peaceful evening. I felt no guilt. I felt no regret. I felt for the first time in my life like I was in control. The aftermath was predictable. Mara had to leave her date night early drunk and angry to go to the CPS office. She had to explain why she had abandoned her children. There was an investigation. She and Todd had to take parenting classes. My parents were furious with me. I received a letter from my father, handwritten, telling me I was no longer his daughter, that I had brought shame on the family, that I was vindictive and cruel. I read it once and then filed it away. It hurt, but not as much as I thought it would. Because I realised that their love had always been conditional. It was based on my usefulness. The moment I stopped being useful, I stopped being worthy. That was not love. That was exploitation. Months passed. I did not reach out. They did not reach out except for a few sporadic attempts that always involved asks. A text from Mara. "I need $500 for Bella's school trip." I did not respond. An email from my mother. "Your father's surgery is next month. He will need help during recovery. Can you take time off work?" I did not respond. They were testing me, seeing if I would break. I did not. I held my boundaries like my life depended on it, because in a way it did. Annie flourished. Without the constant stress of me being pulled in 1,000 directions, without the modelling of dysfunction, she became more confident. She smiled more. She told me one day out of nowhere, "I am glad we do not go to Aunt Mara's anymore. I like it being just us." I asked her why. She said, "Because when we are with them, you are sad, and I do not like when you are sad." It broke my heart that she had noticed, but it also validated everything. I was not just protecting myself, I was protecting her. James and I started going to therapy together. I went individually too. I had a lot of unpacking to do, years of conditioning, years of believing I was only worthy if I was giving. My therapist helped me see patterns I had not recognised. She helped me understand that what I had experienced was not just being taken advantage of. It was emotional abuse, financial abuse. My family had systematically trained me from childhood to put their needs above mine, to feel guilty for having boundaries, to believe that love equaled sacrifice. She helped me see that real love does not require you to destroy yourself, that it was okay to put my own oxygen mask on first. About a year after I cut contact, I got a message from Bella. She was 13 now. She said, "Aunt Karina, I am sorry for what we did to Annie. I know it was wrong. Mum told us it was okay, but it was not. I have been thinking about it a lot. I hope Annie is okay." I was touched. I wrote back thanking her for the apology, telling her Annie was doing great, and that I was proud of her for recognising what had happened was wrong. I told her I loved her, and that if she ever needed to talk, I was here. But I also made it clear that my relationship with her mother was not going to change. I was not going to put myself back in that dynamic. Bella seemed to understand. I ran into Mara once about 18 months after I cut contact. I was at the grocery store with Annie, and there she was in the produce section. She looked tired, her hair was unkempt, and she was arguing on the phone with someone, probably Todd. She saw me and froze. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I hope you're happy. You ruined everything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing but pity. "I did not ruin anything," I said quietly. "I stopped letting you use me. There is a difference." She opened her mouth to respond, but I took Annie's hand and walked away. I did not owe her a conversation. I did not owe her an explanation. I had said everything that needed to be said a year and a half ago. Now, 2 years later, my life looks completely different. Annie is 9. She is thriving in school, has wonderful friends, and is growing into a kind, confident person. James and I are happier than we have ever been. We bought a house last year, something we never could have done if we were still financially supporting Mara. I have hobbies again. I have energy. I sleep well at night. I do not wake up with a knot of anxiety in my stomach, wondering what fresh demand or crisis will land in my lap. I am free. And that freedom, I have learned, is not selfish, it is necessary. I have not reconciled with my family. I do not know if I ever will. Part of me mourns the loss. I mourn the family. I wished I had the parents who should have protected me, the sister who should have been my ally. But I do not mourn the reality of what they were. I am at peace with my decision. I am at peace with the fact that I chose myself, that I chose Annie, that I chose a healthy life over a familiar dysfunction. So here is what I have learned. Family is not an excuse for abuse. Love is not supposed to hurt. You do not owe anyone access to your life, your time, your money, or your children, no matter how much they demand it or how guilty they try to make you feel. Setting boundaries is not cruel. It is self-preservation. And walking away from people who refuse to respect those boundaries is not abandonment, it is survival. Did I go too far? Did I not go far enough? I will let you decide. But I will tell you this, my daughter will never clean floors until her hands bleed to earn someone's love. She will never feel like she has to be useful to be worthy. She will know from the bottom of her soul that she is valuable simply because she exists. And if that is the only thing I accomplish in this life, if that is the only legacy I leave, then it will have been worth every difficult conversation, every burned bridge, every sleepless night. And maybe, just maybe, my story will help someone else who is trapped in a similar situation. Someone who has been taught that their needs do not matter. Someone who has been conditioned to give and give and give until there is nothing left. If that is you, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to walk away. And it is okay if people call you selfish for it. Because taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is the bravest, most radical thing you can do. What do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between being the good one and protecting yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps me keep sharing these stories, and who knows, maybe your story will be next. Thank you for listening.